What is up, family? Today we are going over jungle starts. As you know, there are many new players in Smite, which is good. A lot of people trying it out using the beta code. If you guys don't know, if you guys watch an hour of Smite in a Smite Twitch stream, you get a code and you can basically access the game for free. Only downside is you won't have access to the new gods, but you'll have access to every other god except for the ones that just released. And then you once newer gods come out, then you'll have access to the older gods now, right? Okay, so I'm gonna be going over every role in how to start, every scenario that I've seen, every different start, right? And obviously the most common one. So moving on to jungle starts first. There's multiple ways you can approach this. You can have one, you can start here at this right back camp. So I recommend starting here. So I've seen this start where you clear this back camp, you clear the second back camp, and then you clear red, and then from here you go ahead and move over to the mid wave first, mid wave, and then win that pressure into this buff, right? And then go mid wave again, grab this buff, and then you go speed, and then from here you can either pick between going to duo lane right here, or if that doesn't work out, you go to these two back camps, and then from these two back camps, at this point, all your jungle will be down, and you can either back for an item, you can either um, look for a gank, you can pretty much do whatever. But I've seen that's the start that I've been doing. Um, However, I have seen starts where jungle. This is the start that I used to do. Jungle and solo laner clear this camp together, and then jungler moves to red camp, and then the the jungler clears one back camp, and then this right here gives the opportunity for dual lane to clear. So this start where the jungle and the solo laner clears blue, clears red, and then clears this back camp. The mid laner can clear this camp before starting lane, and can then go ahead and rotate into this wave. So the reason you do this is because as a mid laner, you are going to not miss a single minion if you clear fast enough, right? And with Anubis' clear, he clears really fast. So although they'll be hit by tower, you'll still hit level 2 before the other laner. So that's a start that I've also been seeing. And last but not least, for the jungle start, excuse me, it would be I've seen where jungler and solo laner share this buff. They both then share this buff. Solo laner can either pick up red and blue, or jungle can pick up red and solo laner picks up blue. And then from there, jungler goes here, here, and then makes it in time for this camp. I've seen that start. This is if you want your solo laner to get ahead really fast. There's just a lot of options, which is great for the variety of the game. So that's the jungling start that I've seen most common. And of course, I haven't seen it a lot where the jungler, of course, can start speed. They can start these two back camps, and then they can move on to here, here, red camp, and then mid, mid camp. But again, this isn't really the best start anymore. This is like a really bad start now, being what's in the meta. So I would just recommend starting on starting red side of the map, right? So that is that for the jungler, and now let's move on to solo laners. Now, for solo laners, it all just depends. If your jungler wants to help out red, you help out red. I think I've already kind of explained in the video as well. You help out red, and then if not, you can always just start blue. Jungler clears, these three camps, or up here, whatever, and you can just start blue as a solo laner and hit wave. But essentially, it's either these two camps or this camp. You never want to start wave, because if you start wave, you just miss out on so much XP, and you also may miss out on minions, because if you start wave and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna rotate to blue, and then I'm gonna go back to my wave, you'll most likely miss more waves, because the other solo laner most likely have started in their blue. Oops, have started in their blue and went ahead and cleared wave, and then when you back when you back into, if you did start wave and you back into getting more into getting your blue again, this solo laner right here has the opportunity to just clear out the wave that's, the next wave that's coming, and then push his wave into your tower. You miss out gold, you miss out XP, which is why I don't think starting in the starting in lane as a solo laner is ever a good option. Now let's talk about mid starts, right? Now this start depends. If your if you see your jungler and your solo laner sharing blue buff, you can start here at this camp. However, what I would do recommend though is just starting in either one of these camps, right? But again, if you see your jungler or your solo laner start in the same camp, in the blue camp, you're going to start in the same side back harpies, back gold camps, whatever. And then once you clear that, you go ahead and move on to lane. However, if your jungler and your solo laner are not grabbing the same camp, so they're going in different camps, you start on the other side of the back camps. The only reason you start here is because the only reason you start here instead of here, right, is because with this setup right here, if Loki and Mordred clear these two camps, obviously Mordred would go here, and then Loki would then move on to here and here. By the time he finishes this camp right here that he's on right now, he's already level 2. So there's really no reason for him to. There's really no reason for him to. Let me grab that real quick and clear. There's really no reason. Oh my gosh, I have the. Sorry. There's really no reason for him to start at or work on this side of the map over here. Simply because he he's already level 2. There's no point. He could just move on straight to mid. That's why it's a better start when you as a mid laner start here and go into mid lane, into mid minions. Simply because again, he's not really missing out on XP. Plus, this camp is just gonna be kind of free, not really doing anything, and it's most efficient. So by the time your jungler gets to mid and you're also at mid, he can freely go to. Now it won't let me drag. He can freely go to here, into this camp, into speed, into his two back camps. Even though, like for example, if you instead you cleared this way, instead he cleared this camp over here, by the time he gets to this camp, he makes his full rotation. By the time he gets to this camp will still be spawning if you ended up clearing this camp first, right? But again, that kind of everything changes though. It all depends on where your jungler and your solo laner starts. Everything changes once, if you see them take separate buffs at the start. You as a mid laner should just go on this buff, because your jungler. Let me grab him again. Website's kind of glitching out. Your jungler needs all three of these camps to hit level 2 if he starts at red. So that's pretty much a start, and what you have to keep in mind as a mid laner. Pretty self-explanatory. You either just start in these two camps depending on whether your jungler, where your jungler or your solo laner starts. Now, lastly, we're going to go over the dual lane start. You can either go with the most traditional start. So what I've seen is they just clear this purple camp, move on to wave. They same thing with the other team, clear the purple camp, move on to wave, right? That's how I've seen most of my game start. Excuse me, most of the game start, most of the rank games start. However, what you could also do is have the carry, have the ADC clear a purple buff, while the support, if you have Sunder as a support, you can go ahead and start clearing this yellow buff. Given the fact, if so, you can start doing this if, let me just put Thor because he's going to be the new guy coming out. If the enemy jungler starts on red, because usually since junglers start on red side now over here, nobody's really here protecting yellow side unless the support is aware and kind of just watching over the buffs. This is pretty much free for the taking, unless of course they hear you and then they can start to rotate. But that's also something you could do, but again, a little more risky, simply because all they have to do is rotate here. You end up dying, and then next thing you know, like the enemy mid laner, if they start right here, they can also start rotating here. It'll essentially be a 3v1. But um, who knows? If they started right here, and sometimes I see them start in lane. If they start right here, this is pretty much a free speed. Nobody's really guarding it. Unless you're playing with good players, then it takes a little more communication. But there's nothing really much to carry or support in terms of starting. It's usually just most traditionally, starting purple and just moving on to lane, fighting it out, right? So when all is said and done, that is pretty much all the starts. This is pretty much how the map should look like at the beginning of the game. Nobody should really be starting in lane. And then again, it can either look like this, or if this scenario happens where they're sharing the blue buff, then it'll look like this, right? Or um, if you see them start at red buff, it'll look like that, right? The only time you are here as a mid laner is if your jungler and your solo laner are sharing the solo buff. Otherwise, if they're sharing the blue buff, otherwise if they're not sharing the blue buff like this, then you would go here. And same scenario, if they are sharing the red buff and they're also sharing the blue buff, as a mid laner, you would still be here. Again, let me tell you again that the only time you should be here is at the start. They're sharing blue if they're sharing blue. So that is pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy this quick, hopefully quick video. Just going over starts because I did notice there's a kind of a spike in Smite players. The player count gets higher every day, which is great. So not a lot of people know what to start. It's different from Smite 1, that's for sure, because in Smite 1, everybody kind of knew what they were doing. And plus, since there's no Invader's Curse, a lot of people can make plays. You can see maybe even a rotation up here to where they can invade and start getting kills right here, right? So you can do those like crazy starts, but those starts that I just went over are just like probably one of the most common starts, the most safe starts you can do in a game. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. If you found this helpful, please leave a like, comment, sub. Let me know what you guys want to see in terms of guides. And please check out the rest of my channel. I do have a play-by-play series where I go over my thought process in terms of what to do in this exact moment in a certain god in a certain role. But yeah, other than that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later, family.